Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Abby Hagyard. This is my click. I click a thing that says, "Hi, everyone. Welcome back." This is my office. And, when I moved in a year and a half ago now, I looked around and I said, I love it. Why is everything gray? What is wrong with people? We live in a country where, especially this part of the country, where the sky is gray and the pavement is gray and the sidewalks are gray and the cars are gray and the faces are gray. Sometime between November and March. Why are the walls gray? And then I said, never mind. We have an app for that. We have an ab for that. And look, it's all pink in colors. And mom. So the reason I'm talking about getting the energy back and finding the sources of our inner fire and our focus is because I've noticed, I notice it every year and then I kind of forget. It's like hurting yourself when you bang your toe on an end table. You think, I'm going to move that table, and then we forget, right? Then we bang the toe on the table. There seems to be a thing that happens after a massive set of holidays. And that is, we just kind of go into a funk. We're sort of walking around. Holidaze, they call it DAZE or ZE if you're American. And I think they're right. I think that it is the grown-up version of the kid who had too much candy and is tired at 3 p.m. and they're just done. And they don't know what to do with it because they're just little kids and they're just done. And we basically, as adults, and we have the same thing, but it sounds different. And the way I look at it is that I look with yearning at the cool tiles on the linoleum floor or the marble floor, if you're, So I'm thinking, I just need 5 minutes. I just need 5 minutes alone. That's all I need. That's all I ask. And the thing is, we need more than that. We need to rethink. What were you thinking? We need to rethink what's the point of that. And Gary and I talk about this kind of thing all the time because there's so much to do, right? And you want to do all of it. So I want to read you a thing I saw the other day. I read it to him and he said, "Oh God, that's definitely it." And then I want to tell you a story, and then I'll kick into what today is about. So, and by the way, I got another note from LinkedIn. So a whole bunch of you are tuning in and watching these videos, and I appreciate that. I appreciate the idea that busy business people, because that's mostly LinkedIn, right? They're saying, what on earth is she up to now? Perfect. So here's the thing I want to read to you, right? It says, trying to heal while trying to grieve, while trying to forgive, while trying to forget, while trying to love, while trying to be loved is a lot for one heart. And it's certainly a lot for anyone to try to be those many places with those many purposes, with those many goals simultaneously. It's multitasking taken beyond the pale, because we see all these messages and we say, oh yes, I need that. Oh yes, oh gosh, yes. And we it's like walking by a buffet table, we just keep loading these things onto our plate. And then we get back and sit down and we look at it and we think, I can't possibly eat all of that. Well, why did you load it in the first place? The starving people, yada, yada, yada. No, we loaded it because the intention was there. We loaded it because every single one of those things touched us where we live, separately, one at a time, in sequence. And we meant it, and we still do. The thing is, where do we find the time, A, to do them at all, B, to do them well? And then when we don't, we're crushed because we feel as though we have let the team down. And so this is what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about something. There's a guy who lives in the back of my brain. I'm convinced. There's a guy who lives in the back of my brain, and periodically he hands me out something to say. And it's brilliant. People say, that's clever. And I say, don't doubt, thank you, but it's him. Good morning, Maggie. Good morning, Freddie. And I say, but it's whoever that is. Except when he goes on a break. And then his idiot third cousin takes over and hands out stuff. And I say it, and then I think, what the hell where did that come from? Who wrote that? Whoever wrote it left their brains on their other pants. Why am I saying this? So the phrase that the guy handed out to me this morning was intention span. It's not the same as an attention span. Attention span is how long you can focus. Intention span is how long your fire stays alive along with your attention. It's a combination of fire and focus. And how long do those two things regenerate and encourage and enable and inspire and corrupt each other? How long do they build a momentum, a combined momentum? Fire and focus, because you must have both if you want to achieve anything worth having. So what happens to people, I think, excuse me, I just got something in my eye, I think here, my finger. What happens to us when we have pushed our limits, push. There was Halloween and Thanksgiving and Christmas. And after each one of them, there were Black Fridays and Dark Mondays and Purple Wednesdays and whatever, all kinds of reasons for people to get all wired up and go and shop. And no time to just sit down and say, and loosen the belt. Nothing, no time. And the answer is, why not? What on earth is the benefit of spinning until we fall down and throw up? How does that serve? And of course it doesn't. What we have forgotten is that all the people saying, buy now, try now, are not giving us instructions. They're trying to one-up the competition. They're trying to be louder than the other guy. Don't listen to him. I'm over here. I can do more. Just find out. Just come and talk to me. What on earth is that? So, sorry. In any case, you see what I mean? I have a distraction and I'm trying to do both at the same time because this is my focus. That, however, is what's on fire. So I'm a little distracted. So the point I'm thinking we need to look at, it always takes a bit of time to recover. It's a kind of a lingering effect. You know, you walk out on the deck, or you walk into your backyard, or in front of your garage, and an hour ago you had the barbecue on, and then you finished and you shut everything down and you brought the food in and you had a great meal and you were talking to people. But when you go back outside, there's a lingering flavor, there's a lingering aroma, and every single moment of the prep, of the decision, the prep, the cooking, the anticipation comes flooding right back simply by walking past that residual flavor, that residual, oh yeah, gosh, we're going to do that next weekend. It's what keeps us attached to things is the sensory memory and the thinking memory and the emotional memory, all three of them combined, right? So where we are after a holiday is absolutely wiped. We had a great time. You know, people are always saying when they come home, they need a vacation after the vacation because they went away and they were so excited and they were little kids again and they did everything twice. And then they got on the plane. They thought, oh my God, I have work tomorrow. Because they forgot about neutral. So I'm going to talk to you about neutral. I'm going to talk to you about the secret ingredient in the intention span, the strategy for success. Back in the mists of time, cars and trucks still have something called a standard transmission. A standard transmission required the driver to deal with the brake, deal with the fuel pedal, and deal with something called a clutch. And a clutch pedal was designed to pull the car out of a gear, to pull the engine out of a gear, to separate the gears and go into a spot called neutral. And while in neutral, you could then move to another gear without grinding the points, the teeth of the gears. If you failed to do that and you tried to shift, it made the most ungodly noise and everybody winced and said, that's going to be expensive. Now we have something called automatic transmission. The car does it for us. Trucks still no. Trucks still have you go through the 18 gears, right? 13 gears, whatever it is. And the reason for that is to get maximum use of the engine with minimum wear and tear on the brakes, to get maximum use of the momentum that the machine has created. When you do it properly, saves fuel, saves wear and tear, and it just makes one arm stronger than the other. So in the absence of that, we have forgotten that the reason for that, the reason to get out of one gear and pause to get into the next one, was to save the pointy edges of the gear wheels. When we transfer that story, we transfer that metaphor, we transfer it to us, we have forgotten that we need time to shift our focus. We need time to clear our heads. We need time to realize that, when you get off a phone call or somebody stops in the doorway and says a couple of words, it takes us a good 20 seconds to get that out of our head and get our full focus back on what we were doing. We don't allow for that. We think we just automatically switch back. We don't. And when we claim that we're masters at multitasking, what we're actually doing is we're overloading the brain with new thing, do it now, while we're still getting rid of the residual of the old thing. We're still winding up our thoughts on that. And by forcing us to try and do two things at the same time, we overload our circuits and we reduce the quality of the output, which is really dumb. Why do we do that? Because we're not paying attention to the juggling responsibilities. Absolutely, Freddie. How we juggle well is more important than how many we juggle. Because when you're juggling flaming chainsaws and they're on fire, you really don't want to miss. You don't want to miss anyway, but you really don't want to miss. So the conversation today about, do we have sufficient intention to take on a new thing? Is our intention span wide enough, big enough, long enough, firm enough to handle one new thing? And if yes, if we feel we can, we do, we have, where are we going to put it? The story that I want to tell today is happened in 2019. I was doing a panel at my first Comic-Con. And I didn't do a typical panel. I wasn't answering questions for people in the way that normally happens. They come and they want to talk about whatever shows they were interested in. I had said that it was a pilot for a concept that I was developing, Pivotry in Motion. And I said, we're calling it 15 Minutes with Abby, and you can ask me anything you like. And I don't need to know ahead of time. And I will answer you truthfully with a fix that I think will be a winner. And I had assumed that because You Can't Do That was funny and everybody had come to see the lockers and the memorabilia and meet Mom, that they would have funny questions for me. What I hadn't taken into consideration, well, good morning, Susan. What I hadn't taken into consideration was the fact that they had come to the booth and we'd talked and we had connected on a different level because they were talking to Abby Mom, not just Mom, not the librarian. And so when they came, they had questions that mattered to them, deep questions. And that came as a great surprise to my entire crew. We're all going, oh, and we're on camera, live, fabulous. The first person who got up had a remarkable question. And it stumped me for a second. It's so on point for this, though, that I wanted to share it. So he said, Habby, my name is, and I'm from. He said, it's a kind of a different question, and I don't want to bring the mood down. I had a doctor's appointment really that recently that wasn't great. It was great, but it gave me a wake up call, and the doctor said it wouldn't be a bad idea to start your bucket list. And the whole room kind of went silent, and I was gobsmacked. And he said, "So my question is, do you have any advice for me?" And I said, and I the guy in the back, the brilliant guy in the back, I said, it's a funny thing about lists. When we call it a to-do list, it isn't really a to-do list. It's a wish list. We start with the idea of what we need to do today or what we want to do today, but then we get carried away. And what we end up making is a list of all the things we would like to be able to do today. It becomes a wish list. And I said, and I think that's the same with bucket lists. I think what happens is that we begin with the intention of saying, I make sure I do this. And then after that, it becomes how many buckets, which wasn't the point. It's not the bucket. The bucket is merely the container, right? And he said, absolutely. I said, so let's say it's not a matter of time. It's a matter of capacity. Suppose we can only focus on one bucket. Let's focus on the biggest bucket and the most important bucket. What would that bucket be? And he said, I want to ride on every roller coaster in North America. And I said, really? And he said, absolutely. And there was a woman sitting beside him, and I said, are you with him? And she said, oh, yes, every day, all the time. And I said, and do you ride on the roller coasters with him? And she said, I wouldn't miss it. And I looked at him and I said, you know what? That might be the replacement. I think you already have your bucket. And I said, but do it. Do it. Don't waste the time. Cherish the thing that is your passion. Because now that we come back to today, life has a way of getting in the way. Life is what happens when we're busy making plans, as the saying goes, correct? So let's give our intention span a hug, shall we? Let's find a way to say thank you for putting up with and showing up with all the things that I've just crammed into every single day. Now let's do something nice for us. Let's limit. Let's focus. Let's celebrate the best of our intention span. And what is the first and biggest thing we'd like to do? So that we have the capacity to not only dream it, but start it, build it, and follow through. Let's not make it a wouldn't it be nice. And let's make it, and you know what? It also comes in blue. Let's make it something that we achieve rather than something we wish we had. Let's focus on the time we really need, because it's not just the thing. It's the lead in. It's the commuting to and from. We don't automatically switch. We don't have a beam me over button. I've finished this and now automatically I have left the upstairs, I'm downstairs and I'm washing dishes and there has been no transition. Well, that's not real. We don't take into account that time. We don't take into account that on the way to wash the dishes, we see the dog leaping the fence that we thought was unleapable. Clearly the dishes are going to wait. Did we factor that into our day? Did that push everything back? At the end of the day, do we sit there and say, I got nothing done? What is wrong with me? And that's not the way it's supposed to work. Our intention span, as Back of the Brain defines it, is the combination of fire and focus, dream and execution, begin and completion, and everything in between. That's intention span. Do we have the intention span to take on new things? And if we do, let's pick one. Let's pick one and get it done. And get it done in the way that we stand back and say, yeah, that's my superpower right there. Let's do that. What do you say? It's a new year, and there is always, as I say, this 2-week lag. So how do we put that into action? I've given you the talk, I've given you the concept, I've given you the story. What's the attack? And the attack is 2 things. 1, make a list. Not just a list of all the things, but write the time beside it. Start the day before. Where to start before you start is the day before. Make a list today, starting after the video. Not of what you're doing, but how long it takes. Include the 2-minute pause to refresh your coffee, to sit back and think, to wonder what I did with my favorite pen. Now then, where were we? Oh, I have that bill to pay. Those 2 minutes are the glue, actually, they're not the glue. What they are is they're the lubricant that helps the wheels move smoothly, that helps the machine flow. Make the time scheduler. I have one. If you want me to send it to you, I have one. And it's a detail of all the stuff. And it's interesting what I say to people when I give it to them, when I've got a client, and I say, the time scheduler allows you to recognize that you need to take some time away from what you regularly do in order to have time to dedicate to the thing that's new. So you have, 7 days a week, right? And every day there's a list of the stuff that you do and a slot beside each one for how long it takes. So you practice for a week, right? You practice for a week, how long it takes to get out of bed. How long did you sleep ish? How long it takes to get up and ready? How long it takes to get to the next phase, which is, are you getting other people up and ready? Okay. Are you organizing breakfast? Okay. Are you getting all your stuff ready to go and do whatever it is that you're going to be? Okay. You need to go back to the bathroom and fresh before you hit the door? Okay. Add those things up. By the way, at the end of the day, you come up with 24 hours. Just saying, if you've got more than that, that's wrong. You have to go back because there's no extras and there's no rollovers, right? It's always only 24. When you get to the end of the day and you do it for a whole week, you begin to see a pattern. You begin to see the things that you do that are kind of time stealers, time vampires. That's where you can find the time for your fresh intention. That's where you can say, probably I don't need to spend 6 hours watching movies. All right, I'll reduce it. And I'll put that hour into the new thing. Already I've got an hour and it's only Monday. What am I going to do Tuesday? And so each day of the week, as you fill it out, and it's general stuff, you've got house maintenance, you've got you maintenance, you've got car maintenance, you've got friendship maintenance, you've got family maintenance, you've got repairs, you've got errands, you've got commuting, you've got traffic, you've got interruptions, you've got sudden things you didn't see coming. All the things that take place in a day. I've done the outline for you so you don't have to. You can add things, change things around. It's your scheduler. What it gives you is a realistic idea so that you don't feel frazzled at the end of the day because I didn't have time and I wanted to start and oh my gosh. So how we decide that our intention span is actually framed within a structure. There is a blueprint for it. If we give ourselves the room and the permission to take that time and focus and not try to cut corners, we get more done. We get more done well. We get more done well without feeling frazzled. And we get more things completed that we feel passion for. Because we've all been the person who sits down over a coffee, gets together with friends, talks about an idea, everybody brainstorms, oh my God, it's going to be amazing. And then we leave and we go home and go about our day. And gosh, that was a great time. Do we actually do the thing? Or did we use up all of the fire in the talking? Did we actually invest the time to realistically say, I actually want to do this. This is my focus. This is the new me. Which one is it? Which one is it usually? And which one at the end of a day or a week, or the next time you see one of the friends, do you find yourself saying, I really wanted to do that? Well, if you really wanted to do it, kick it again. Give it a hug. Say to yourself, alrighty, let's make it a priority. Let's have a look at that scheduler. Let's get rid of stuff I'm just marking time with. Let's do this if it matters, right? The step after making the list is the execution. And every single one of us has a tendency to procrastinate. And I want to share with you something that I saw. There's a woman who's written a very, very clever book called Let Them. Her name is Mel Robbins. And her entire life hit a wall. Bam, thud. And they were in debt and they were going to lose everything and they were exhausted. And it doesn't really matter what happened. They just finally were at a place where nothing was working. And she was saying that it was impossible to get out of bed. She just couldn't face the day because every day was worse than the day before. And eventually, and she would be lying there in bed with the covers over her head saying, I can't do it. I can't do it. I have to do it. I have to do it. And all that she was doing was stalling and prolonging the feeling bad, the shaming and the blaming and the guilting, because she wasn't actually doing. So here's what she did. And I like it. It's so simple. It's a simple win hack, which is why I'm crediting her and thanking her and telling you about it. She said, I'm going to say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then I'm going to get up. That's it. I'm just going to count down. And it's not after 1, I say go. I just say 1 and I'm up. And she lay there and she lay there and she lay there and she said, Gah! And she was holding the covers and she went 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And she got up. And she thought, all right, I'm up. And she just kept putting one foot in front of the other. On that day, she kept just one foot in front of the other. I'm up, bathroom. I'm up, clothes. I'm up, downstairs. I'm up, this. And anytime she felt her momentum slowing and she was gradually oozing back into inertia, she would do it again. She would just put her hands on something and because what she was doing was she was reigniting the fire. And then she was using 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to engage the focus. And it worked. And where she is now, she has come all the way through to the other side. She is now living what she often says is her best life. Because at one point she hit a wall so hard that she had to do something. And this is where I think we are right now. Reading something from a friend of mine, a marketing genius friend of mine, who said, marketing is hard when people can't even get through the overwhelm to read the ad, to read the opportunity, to read the invitation. They can't even get there. How on earth can we expect a response? We are in slog mode. All right, then. The question is, do we need to stay there? Are we tired? Should we stay in bed for another hour? Actually turn off the light, actually reset the alarm, actually get another couple of hours so that you're refreshed? No, then you're stalling. Start the countdown. Why? Because it's our life. And we are the one who lives it. That's it. That's all she wrote. So, big things happening this week. Client having a huge, huge breakthrough. So exciting. Working on something very powerful that is going to just explode everything you've been thinking. And I can't wait to share you, but I can't share until next week. So that's coming. And after that, you know what? It's just dance between the snowflakes and see January through. Thank you for doing this with me. Thank you for being part of this. This is ABCAST 426. And it wouldn't have happened without you. So be good to you. You deserve it. And remember to hug your loved ones because they deserve it too. I will catch you next time.